We've been playing a lot and have now completed Remnant 2, so here are 10 things that we really wish we knew earlier that might have made our playthrough infinitely better. First up is the unlockable box in Ward 13, the hub area. This will give you a substantial early boost to your character. Within Ward 13, there is a chest near the crystal on one of the upper floors. If you go forwards and up the stairs, and then into Ford's room at the back, you will see a chest that requires a code. To unlock this, you'll find the code by inspecting it at the bottom of your flashlight, or you can simply put into the chest 0415. Inside of the chest will be a key, which you can take to a room just past the docks, so head back outside towards the side with the gun range, then walk forwards along the fence. If the fence isn't open for you just yet, then you may need to progress a little bit more in the campaign. But if it is open, then you can head on down and you'll find a locked door. Simply use the key to open this door, and within this room, there will be a purple item inside, and this will be the MP60R, which is a great little rapid-firing handgun that goes in your secondary weapon slot. This is a pretty good upgrade early on, so if you haven't got it already, think about grabbing this. Next up is to know that melee builds are actually really powerful this time around. So if you want to have a more melee-focused playstyle this time, the improvements that Gunfire Games have made really do show, and there's a bunch of very cool melee weapons that you will get as you play through. A great thing to know is that when it comes to combat with a melee weapon, spamming slash isn't your only option, as there are a few other different attacks that you can do, such as holding the attack button to do a charged attack, which normally does around double damage. You can also perform a dash attack by sprinting and then pressing the attack button. But an easily missable attack is that you can do a neutral dodge and then attack input for a unique attack animation, and some weapons you get in-game actually use this to do a totally different style of attack and trigger mod abilities. Next up, you need to know that you should prioritize saving your scrap, and that your default weapons are actually pretty good. Scrap is a resource used for pretty much everything related to upgrading your character in Remnant 2. And if you were like us, then as soon as you get a shiny new weapon, you will probably want to go and upgrade it straight away so that you can use it on enemies. But we would actually highly recommend that you find a couple weapons that you really like and focus on upgrading only them. If you want to try everything out and start upgrading and buying things from the shop all over the place in your first playthrough, you will actually need a ton of scrap to do this, and you just won't get enough. We actually found that some of the best weapons were the default class weapons that are given to you, as these normally deal great damage and are easily upgradable. So save your scrap, don't buy everything in the shop, and focus on upgrading just a couple of weapons first. Next, you should be aware that some puzzles will actually require you to progress a bit first. One of the biggest things that would have saved us a bunch of time and headache is knowing that generally if you feel you have the right answer for the puzzle and it isn't working, then it usually means that you need to progress a little bit more in that world and then come back. This is because a lot of the puzzles won't activate or unlock until you meet a certain condition of progress to certain sections of the map. So if you find yourself at a puzzle and absolutely nothing is working, try continuing on in that area and then coming back later. Next up, if you aren't one of those people that explore every single thing in your home base, then you may have missed out on this. The game doesn't introduce you to certain characters, but in your home base area of Ward 13, there are a bunch more people that act as vendors outside of just the weapon upgrade and mod vendor. If you head to the left of the crystal, there are a ton of different vendors that sell things like consumables, accessories, and there's even a vendor that will allow you to purchase upgrade materials for scrap, which is great if you're in a pinch and quickly need certain materials to upgrade your weapon before heading back out. And next, you probably are wondering how level scaling works in Remnant 2, because the developers have opted to not display the levels of enemies in the game, which is probably because it creates a more immersive experience for us. But this can lead to some scenarios where the monsters you're fighting are way stronger than you expected and you aren't dealing as much damage as you thought. Level scaling is actually quite easy to understand in Remnant 2, as the majority of the scaling is actually based on the power level number that you see in the menu, and this number is generated by the average level of your archetypes and your weapon levels. You can see a better breakdown of this by clicking the Advanced Stats button to see the individual levels. It is worth keeping in mind that each newly discovered area will add to the level scaling as well. And next up is probably one of the more confusing things about the game, because the game doesn't directly tell you what some of these different buffs that you get from your classes and items and mods actually do, and there isn't a codex or logbook with a list of explanations like in some other games. But what if I told you there was a way to find out? It's just quite easy to miss. While you have a buff active on your character, if you open up the menu, you can see in the top left corner a tiny buff icon. If you hover over this, you will then get a small description of what that buff does. For those of you on the Challenger class, this has enabled us to find out exactly what Bulwark does, which is essentially a 5% damage reduction buff that stacks. Next is something that you unlock super early on, but we didn't actually take advantage of until much later in the game, and that's Adventure Mode. What this allows you to do is farm a specific world, but in a smaller, more cut down version, meaning if there are things that you missed out on, or if you want to farm some particular resources, this is a great way to do it. When the Adventure Mode is active, you only have access to that one world, and you will have needed to complete that world previously in the normal campaign to unlock it in Adventure Mode. Next up is multi-classing and swapping your class. With all of the classes looking pretty fun to play, you may be worried about picking the wrong class for you, but you shouldn't worry too much because you can switch between classes as you progress further in the game. Once you reach level 10, you actually unlock multi-classing, which gives you the benefit of 2 classes at once. The only trade-off is you will not get the prime perk of the secondary class. And next up, if you're looking for materials to upgrade but you aren't getting the drops you need, then it's probably due to your weapon level. Your current weapon level does impact the quality of drops in the world, so if you have one weapon that's dragging down your average, you may not get that particular tier of iron or something else you need. Talking about upgrading, we just want to highlight that it isn't only weapons that you can upgrade, but you can also upgrade mutators and relic fragments. Mutators are very simple to upgrade. You visit the vendor and you can see the resources needed to upgrade them, and getting them to level 10 would unlock their secondary perk. But for relic fragments, you essentially need to find duplicates of the same one while farming to upgrade them. So if you're looking to get the perfect build, you will need to do a lot of farming to get those perfectly high level relic fragments. Share any tips that you have down below and we can all learn together as a community. And make sure to hit like if we've helped you out. And the 2 videos on screen now, we think you'll really enjoy if you did enjoy this one. You don't have to watch them if you don't want to, but if you did like this video, you're probably going to like these ones too. And then tell us what you think after watching in the comments down below.